welcome to The Third Rail. I'm Sera here with Nick, Sasha and Denise. Denise is the founder of MediaScope and is also involved in a podcast series with the Ozpol Twitter community. Welcome to our show, Denise.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm good.
Fantastic. Now, coming up later in the show, Kendall Jenner and that Pepsi ad. And do you need to lie to get through your day? But first up, George Calombaris. Very controversially this week, he's owned up to effectively, I think I can say, ripping off his workers to the tune of about $2.6 million. Sash, what is your take on this?
Yeah, it was alleged and proven, and look, everyone who's in business is going to say, well, I want to make as much as I can, the bottom line is king. And that's fair enough, and I totally understand that. People want to make money. But at the same time, the guy in 2012 came out and said, why should I pay people $40 an hour? It's not like that they've spent 15 years at uni. Like he clearly has an insensitive sort of viewpoint to this kind of stuff. He's got to remember that at one point in his life, he was coming up through the kitchen, he was a chef, and he would have been impacted by these decisions. But unfortunately, when people get to these lofty heights, which it makes me sick even saying that, but anyway, they tend to forget about where they came from, I believe. And not only that, the fact that they brought in a CEO here, right, in October.
Yeah, they didn't have one before.
Yeah, they didn't have one before. They didn't have a human resources manager before. So I think Georgie wanted to keep all the money for himself. All right, George, okay, Yorgos, okay? Basically, he was running it like a shoestring operation, and then that's what he's saying, it blew out of control, and he's got a lot of money.
Very interesting. What did you think, Denise?
It seemed that it was a really long time that he was aware of this issue, which is kind of the interesting thing as well. So why didn't he act? I think the industry that he's in also is, one of those industries that is quite notorious for people to be working long hours, working overtime, and so on. So perhaps that plays a little bit into it as well. People do seem to work, overtime. Tips could also come into it. I wonder what happens with the tips that people are given at the restaurant.
That is such a terrible system.
It's definitely not like the US. Australia is definitely, but there is an element there of, perhaps he thought people are getting good tips, so why should I be really paying attention to this? But George, get your act together.
Yeah,
you need
he's
to be
got a
paying your
problem with
people.
the wait staff specifically. That's the problem he had. He believes that they're overpaid, but really it's only like $34 an hour, right? With the penalties.
Have you eaten in some of these restaurants? I mean, they charge, I've eaten in his restaurant, one of them in Melbourne. Actually, the food was very good.
Yeah, like 2 pieces of food.
And no, it actually wasn't. It wasn't one of those. It wasn't one of those. It was a normal. Actually, it was quite an authentic kind of Greek restaurant. Had a proper servings and that sort of thing. But it's not cheap. It's definitely not cheap.
No.
Nick, what do you reckon? I mean, it's just in the current context of Sunday penalty rates and all the rest of it. I mean, this guy who we would have thought is a squeaky clean MasterChef judge.
Oh, squeaky clean.
Not so squeaky clean.
I'll tell you what, I reckon the key to this whole thing is...
Does he look squeaky clean to you? Look at his face. Does he look squeaky clean to you?
Squeaky clean to me. Well, we know now he's not. But
In the publicity shot, he's looking good.
Skinny
He looks like someone like
trust a skinny
honestly,
chef.
he looks like someone who'd be selling you a used car or something like that and like trying to offer you.
Are you being racist just because he's Greek?
Not at all. I'm just talking about his general demeanour there, the way he's looking, He just doesn't look trustworthy to me, in my opinion.
But to be fair to George, I think we should also recognise that he's certainly not the only one. I read an article today in the Sydney Morning Herald that said something like a Fair Work Commission study showed that 70% of workers within the industry said there was some kind of payment complaint. Perhaps George is, because of his profile, is being put up as a bit of a shot across the bow from the industry.
He's worth millions. He's just got a new business partner, $250 million worth.
High profile.
This hedge fund. Come on, man. He just wanted to keep the money to himself, and now he got sprung. And the thing is, he apologised 18 months after the fact.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, right? Like the trick to all of this, in my opinion, is how soft. Like the way he's been very grovelling. I'm so sorry. Oh, for those of you who are overpaid, you don't have to cop a pay cut. Oh no, we're going to pay everybody out and blah, blah, blah. We're going right through the ringer. Man, I'm telling you, if you knew that you were like not on such shaky ground, you'd just be like, you know what? Fuck you and see you later to the penalty
pays attention
range.
to his bottom line. In 2012, he was coming out complaining about penalties on the weekend. So you're telling me that the guy who's paying enough attention to know that penalty rates are affecting his bottom line, doesn't know that he's underpaying.
It is a bit odd.
I mean, what business person isn't like that?
Yeah, well, that's the issue, I guess. That I would have thought that there's probably, as you sort of said when we started talking about this, people are in business to make money. If they can get away with it, they will get away with it.
I know, but there's also, I see this all the time in other industries too, of people, rich people, just not wanting to pay the agreed upon thing. It can be the squarest sounding deal in the world, right? Yeah. My girlfriend's a nanny, right? These people constantly they'll be late paying, I can't do it, blah, blah, blah. You're already working for almost nothing, looking after someone's kids, which I think should command kind of more of a wage, really.
Yeah.
And yet, they're always tight when payday comes, and it makes me ill because she's not making enough money to seriously live off anyway.
I heard an interesting comment during the week that someone made actually on one of the Ozpol podcasts, was that employers don't want to pay their staff much, but they want their customers to have a lot of money. So there seems to be a bit of a conflict there.
It's just
everyone's
stupid.
a consumer at some stage.
Well, that's it. That's a really good point because, the people who are working for someone like George Calombaris are also going off and eating at restaurants,
That's
one would
exactly
assume.
right.
So, why, if you're going to, with one hand, take the money away, then they're not able to spend it. So it's a bit of a...
Do you think they'd be frequenting these restaurants when they know the inner workings of the restaurants? You wouldn't want to be there, mate, okay?
Maybe not.
Maybe
maybe not.
hang around you, let's go to my workplace or something like my workplace on the
Maybe
weekend.
not.
Ooh,
But there's a question broadly about whether or not, wage levels, how they affect the economy. I mean, I'm not an economist, obviously, but you can see just as a logical matter that, if you're going to cut people's wages, then it's going to have some flow-through effect.
Well, particularly where wage growth is so low and very stagnant. So it does sort of play into that whole, what's going on with the economy. The economy is quite halted at the moment.
Well, look, it's all... very interesting. We're very troubled by what's happened with George Calombaris. I'm glad people are going to be paid their money now, and hopefully this will not happen again.
He did look very upset on the project.
He did. He did look upset. Stay upset and remember to pay your people what they should be paid.
I can't believe you watched the project. That's ridiculous.
I like the project.
Really?
All right, so moving overseas now to everyone's favourite family, the Kardashians. This time, Armenians, yes, our brethren.
Pull the wool. Thank you.
My brethren.
That's right. This time, Kendall Jenner and that Pepsi ad. So we'll just show you a clip of that ad now.
We are the chosen. We're gonna shine out the dark. We are the movement. This generation.
Now, Denise, the ad has now been pulled down.
Yes.
It was obviously controversial because a movement protesting police brutality against African Americans
Pepsi will make everything
has
all right.
been appropriated by Pepsi to sell a soft
I think
drink.
it's awesome.
It's really good.
What do you
like
think,
it?
Denise, from your sort of media perspective? What's your take on it?
Certainly not the first advertising fail we've seen. Cooper's Brewery is one that springs to mind that we saw just a couple of weeks ago in this market.
That was a fraught time for me.
Oh, really? You're a Cooper's Brewery
Yeah,
man?
that was very silly.
That was no good.
was
I
just
thought,
silly.
am I going to have to drive to Warringah to buy Cooper's Red now?
You
What if I
weren't
get
part of-
bashed by a group of
weren't gonna
uni
boycott
students on the
Cooper's
way home,
Brewery?
But it's okay.
Good.
So please
I'm
continue.
glad. So with Pepsi, not a good look. I mean, really to tapping into something like this where there's obviously a lot of protest and a lot of angst about these kind of issues in the States, worldwide. To me, it really speaks also to, what are these people thinking? There's obviously a disconnect between the marketers and the people who are coming up with these ideas and the consumers. So they clearly were not expecting this kind of backlash.
They're deluded.
It's
deluded.
baffling.
Maybe they were expecting this kind of backlash. They wanted this publicity.
Yeah,
That's another
I
thing.
don't know.
But this one is a bit too serious,
Yeah.
I think. I wouldn't put it past them for some things, but perhaps not something as serious
joyful.
at this. To me, it speaks to the disconnect, and there has been some studies quite recently. PricewaterhouseCoopers put something out last year, actually, that showed that a lot of people working in my industry are classified as Bondi hipsters.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
So really, there's not a lot of
Whitey's
diversity.
hanging out with other whiteys,
Well,
basically.
there's a bubble. There's definitely a
Yeah.
bubble. So perhaps we're quite disconnected from the people that that our products are reaching.
Is
So
that
I think it
because
speaks
they're-
to that in some way.
Are they just up their own assholes? is my question.
Yeah, but they don't delve outside their own social settings.
Yeah, that's what it
the
is.
thing.
Yeah.
I work with the nicest people, but
Yes.
I do think that we're in a little bit of a bubble. As an industry, we're
asshole
certainly having
No.
as
The
an industry,
colon.
we're certainly having
keep
those
it
debates
clean.
Keep
internally.
it clean, mate.
We're having those debates internally. I think that we are thinking that we need to break away from our bubble. You
Pop
know,
it.
But
Don't break
what
away.
I'm saying
Pop
is
the bubble.
that-
Get out.
Get out of there.
Put people in that bubble who are a bit diverse.
Well, that's it as
That's what you
well.
need.
And we're
You
also
need a bit
having
diversity.
those-
You just need to have
sell your
people with
fucking
proper
Pepsi, though.
business ethics. If you want to make money, you've got to try and sell to everybody, right? There's no point in having ads with just white people on there, because if you actually go out into the streets of Sydney,
But they actually don't have just white people in this ad. in
yeah,
fact.
I know. This is that's
Yeah,
right.
they
But
didn't. It was quite- they were
yeah, it was
deliberately
I'm
thinking
talking
about that.
generally speaking, but
Yeah.
with that, they should have thrown a few whiteys in there,
It
sprinkle
looks
them
like
in.
they've been quite,
They
they've
were.
placed quite in a
Carefully.
contrived way.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
carefully
you're right.
to
You're right.
build that
Well, because
diversity.
the person who takes the photo at the end when Kendall Jenner is giving the
Yeah.
Pepsi can to the police
Yeah,
officer,
she's a Muslim.
is a Muslim.
Yeah.
She's wearing a hijab. So they obviously had thought about
Yep.
this concept of global harmony and peace and all the rest of it, and
was
trying to
contrived.
include everyone. But the message overall completely missed the mark,
But
as they said actually in their apology.
Why would you think that you could pull something like that off, especially when probably about once every 6 weeks, somebody blows it like this, and they
It would
get
be every 6
smashed
weeks.
up and down for it. Like you had Cooper's. There was a better handled one, or actually an ingenious handle, was Skittles after the Trump
yes,
thing.
yeah.
Trump Jr., one
of
of the
them,
little
yeah.
American psychos, allegedly. He
Allegedly.
tweeted a picture of a bowl of Skittles. It said, if one of the 3 of these were poisoned, would you take a handful? It was an allusion to refugees, and everyone got pissed off about it. Skittles stepped up to the plate in a piece of marketing genius that just made me sick, really, and said, "We're not going to comment any further. This is a candy. Refugees are people." And pow! Free advertising for Skittles because everyone's like, man, that was so how well they really handled the shit out of that. And then all these other morons are sitting there on Twitter going well, I'm going to go and buy some Skittles. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, that's
okay,
just the
what do you-
opposite of what happened
But
with
what
this
do you
Pepsi
want them
thing.
to do? What would you have wanted Skittles to do?
No, well,
What they
Skittles
did was the
probably
right thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know, but
right.
it was clever because it gave them so much good
Yeah,
press.
yeah, no, I agree.
And I'm just
Yeah, I
saying,
agree.
if you're Pepsi, really, I mean, surely they still got to run these things. So is there just a bunch of trolls going to focus groups and going, yeah, no, we love that?
Well, I think that's
Definitely
another
run it.
interesting point
Yeah.
of it is that, there's a very long process of putting an ad like this together.
It was
From
huge
planning to
production.
strategy to creation to implementation and so on. At what part of this process didn't someone say, hey, I don't think this is a good idea? So it in some ways also speaks to me a little bit about, again, the people who are involved. So perhaps they need some more diversity in there to go, this wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, but it's the culture.
But the culture,
You throw in
didn't someone
people.
put their hand up
Hand
and
up.
say, this
Yeah.
isn't a good idea? Weren't
Yeah.
they comfortable to do that? If they did
You
do
can
that,
make
why
it-
weren't they taken notice
Yeah,
of?
I
You
agree
can
with
make
that.
the industry more diverse, but still, it's the culture. Anyone who comes in, it's
Yeah.
just going to be tokenistic anyway, and they have to abide by the laws
Yep.
of the room and,
Yeah.
and the culture of the company wherever they're working. But I just think the way I know what Pepsi was trying to do. You know what I mean? And to think that you try to align yourself with a movement that has a lot of heart to it. It's a very sensitive issue, and these sorts of issues. People believe in them very strongly. And in order to put this into a campaign and take it out to the public, you're telling people that you feel strongly about this, right? And then what happens? When people don't like it, oh no, this is shit, boom, we'll just drop it. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
At least keep it out for a week or so, you know what I mean?
What they should do is think about other ways of showing that they really do support this. Because I've got a few notes here about what they said. So that about a day after the ad came out, Pepsi was standing by it. They say it reflected people from different walks of life coming together in a spirit of harmony. And then, of course, when they've pulled it, they've apologised and say it missed the mark. But, one thing that they should think about is why not, put your money where your mouth is? Like, if you really want to support these sorts of movements, these sorts of Pepsi or big corporations, put some money in
But
to
you know what?
movements like
Kendall
Black
Jenner's
Lives
the wrong
Matter.
person for that anyway. She's an elitist. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Kendall Jenner's the wrong person to be promoting that sort of ad.
As
There had to be
she
someone who was
can.
salt of the earth.
Well,
you know?
well,
Okay, she sees a payday, but I don't know why Pepsi really. The heartening part of this for me is that people get the shits when you try and use a movement like that to sell them a fucking can of Pepsi.
Yeah.
All right? You can never equate the two. Stay out of it. Politics isn't your game. Have people having fun by the pool. Have your racial diversity.
It's a
I think
social
next
issue.
time, bring out more cans of Pepsi. There was only
Yeah.
one. Only went to the cop. Could have changed the whole public perception. But really, you can't just co-opt a movement.
Yeah.
You know, that's it's got a body count, a large body count on both sides, and
Exactly.
go.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have been more
Was-
subtle.
Was it today Martin Luther King's daughter came
Yeah.
out and
Yeah.
said something along the lines of, my dad just could have used a Pepsi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So-
Which just
Everybody
highlights the
jumped on it,
ridiculous,
like, yeah.
That's exactly
nature
right.
of the
And
And
ad.
I think the other interesting thing now with these advertising fails, and no doubt they've been going on for years, and we'll see many more to come.
Hope so. They're very
Exactly.
good. They're very
Great for us to talk about.
So within 24 hours, there's social media as an avenue where the feelings of people are expressed very quickly. So already today we've seen memes, we've seen parody ads, and the companies reacted so quickly. There is almost now an industry that's being created of businesses that are now working out how to manage these kind of
Yeah.
fails, which is an interesting kind of evolution. Again.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and it sort of does speak a bit about
Yep.
people power through social media. I mean, we can knock social media as
Yeah, we
much as
can,
we
and
like,
we
but
will.
Oh, yes,
and we
we
do,
will.
and
But
we
it
do
does
on this
have a
show.
social conscience
But it
as well.
does, it does have that, and we saw it with this. We saw it with Coopers. That was
Yeah.
incredibly
Yeah.
powerful with
Yep.
Coopers. So maybe not all is lost. So we're going to wrap up the show on this very important question. Do you need to lie to get through your day? Now, our audience might be wondering, who is this dog? This is Egg the pug, whose owner
R.I.P.
today...
Yeah, Egg's dead.
It's very
dead.
sad. His owner today pleaded guilty to lying to the police about Egg being abducted, when in fact he had actually dumped. Yeah, don't laugh. It's sad. He had actually dumped the dog's body in the Parramatta River.
Wow.
After the dog had died choking on a treat. It's very sad. And
No, it's
I
not
mean,
sad. He just blamed it on the lebs, that guy. That's what he
Is
did.
that-
Blame it on the
He
lebs.
made up a racist lie.
was it a race? Did it have a racial
Yeah, he
element?
said three Middle Eastern men assaulted him,
Yeah.
took his bag and the dog.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
Yeah. In
and then
fact,
the
I
cops
think he said-
realised, well,
And
you know
then-
what?
And then it was on the front page of a certain newspaper
Yeah.
in
Oh
Melbourne.
right, that story was. I didn't know that
Egg,
subtext.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
the thing.
He
You know,
said- he
he's
said-
the scapegoat. Oh, the lebs did it. Oh, yeah, they must be right. They must have done that.
I don't
Must
think
have
he
done
said
it.
Lebs.
We've got to
specifically.
investigate.
I think he said
Middle Eastern appearance.
something to the
Yeah.
effect. Yeah, in my
It's
mind,
ridiculous.
In my mind, it was a fat wog, a skinny wog, and
That's
George
that's basically
Calombaris.
what he did. Yeah. It's just.
Well, it's an interesting
it's
sort
fucked,
of
man.
thing that he did, because what he said was that he lied because he didn't want his girlfriend to find
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
that the dog had died, because this was the second dog that he'd lost.
Hey,
Oh,
don't
this
laugh,
guy.
Sorry,
okay?
I
If she
just-
want to have kids
He
with this
should-
guy, she better. No, I don't think that's a wise
don't think
move.
that's
honestly,
gonna work.
he's got no idea. This guy.
No. But
Choking
no
on a
more
treat.
dogs.
The
No more
first dog
dogs.
actually also choked,
Really?
but on a dog toy.
Well, what's he been doing with this dog? What the hell happened?
I don't
there?
know
Was
what's
he feeding
going
it
on,
treats?
but
What else
it
is he doing?
does raise a question about, do you need to lie? Back to our point.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Do
a
you need
web
to
of
lie?
lies that he got really deeply into, and I don't really feel sorry for the guy, but at the same time, I think he's gone, what am I going to do?
It's the
he
second
didn't
one.
mean for it to get out of control, but then it got seized on by these like animal-loving crazies who live mostly in the inner west, I think.
Yeah.
And they're batshit, and they constantly campaign on these weird Facebook groups about like rescuing animals, and it just, the whole thing snowballed. And so
Yeah.
I feel,
Okay, yeah, I think it's okay too.
well, yeah, I don't know. Go
Yeah, but
and
that's
check
a
some
lie
of
he
it out.
didn't need to make, okay?
Yeah,
We're
he
talking
didn't
about
need
lies
to.
you need to get through
He
the
needed
day.
to make that lie. He'd already killed.
No, he didn't need to make it.
He could've
You know
just
what I
owned
mean?
up.
He'd
He
already
could've owned
lost
up.
another
Could have
dog.
grown
What
a
was
set
he
of
going
nuts
to
and
do?
actually owned up to his
That's
missus
it.
and said, hey, listen, I fucked up again. I'm an irresponsible human being. I can't even look up after a dog. Don't have any kids with me. Break up with me.
That's
By
it.
the way,
Could've
let's not
done
get
that.
schmackos anymore.
Yeah,
Maybe
no,
that's
He
I
was
think-
down the rabbit hole of lie. He couldn't find his way back.
That is
find his
right.
way
too much.
That is
But
right.
then again, we go back to having to lie every day. I'm sick of it, you know. Everything.
You think you have to lie
with
about everything?
You have
You
to lie
lie.
about everything. Yeah, you have to.
About
you know,
what?
hey man, how you doing? Now, what am I going to sit there and give him an essay on how I feel? And
You
all
should try that.
And my views of the world and how dismal it all is. I mean, you're not going to say that. And basically, you have to go to work. You have to, we spoke about this last week. lick someone's ass basically all day, even though you don't really, you wouldn't respect them outside the workplace. You wouldn't give them 10 seconds. But there, you have to be ensconced. You have to invest. This is all bullshit.
It's true.
Sometimes lying is probably relevant to one's professional existence, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. It's all based on a lie. And that's where this whole social media stuff comes into it, because, you know, you're taking it home with you. You're lying everywhere. You know what I mean? Lie here, lie there. It's okay. You're living like 20 lies.
Could a lie also be looked at as in sometimes you're just not forthcoming with the truth, so you just don't mention something? Is that sort of another way to do it? So as an example, I won't tell my husband about the 3 parking tickets I've had last week.
Well, he's going to find out about it now.
The
But
right thing.
I did the right thing. So I just, I didn't lie, but I didn't
disclose it.
Yeah,
So
that's
is
just
that
as
another
bad.
way?
I think that's just as bad. I reckon that, yeah.
Well, Scott Morrison this week told us to not look at the truth about the tax cuts, and perhaps instead go and ask people at the pub.
Yes, the pub test.
The pub test. He didn't want us to look at the evidence.
Yeah.
He did kind of the Bjelke Peterson. Don't you worry about that. Go and ask people at the down
Every
the pub.
time he talks, speaking of dogs, I just hear this.
You should hear him in question time.
Yeah.
You really got to start mastering your lies, you know what I mean? Like sometimes when you talk to people at work, you know that they don't like you or whatever, you know, and they're just only dealing with you because they have to and they want to, you know, earn their wage and whatever. They've got to sell it a lot better, you know, it's all in the eyes, you know. You can say to me
You're
whatever you like.
actually very good at picking that up. I'm quite blind to it. I just
really?
assume that everyone likes me.
Oh.
Yeah, I just think, well, I'm pretty likeable, but I just think if people are talking to me, I am very naive, but I'd rather think that way
This is
because at least I
episode
can sleep
13.
at night, you know?
You can sleep at night.
I can sleep at night.
I sleep at night.
About,
I don't think that way.
I don't have to think about, are they lying, are they this, are they that, whatever. I just go, you know,
I'm
I go
sometimes
with it.
grateful for the lies.
Are you?
Yeah, and someone lies to my face and I'm like, thank you. Anonymity is shrinking ever more on social media. What I find really interesting is this phenomenon of the raw and honest post, you know, and these, I think, a lot of the time are lies as well, because
Embellishments.
it's all lies.
well, they're huge embellishments, and they because social media is like this professor once described it as kind of like a pokie machine, you know, and you're always trying to get all the lights and numbers and buttons to flash. And one way that you can do that, hack into that, is to come out and say, guys, my dog Egg, he's a pug, is dead. Okay? And
That's it.
I just don't know what to do with myself right now. And people will just love it. They'll go, love heart, love heart, love heart, crying emoji, crying emoji, crying emoji. They're
Shut
into
up.
it. You
I
know
hate
what?
that shit.
I hate it too.
Sorry.
At some level, this is manipulating the truth too. You know, these outpourings of
Well,
grief.
certainly
and things.
certainly when you get the likes and that sort of thing, it's that element has got a real, it's very fake.
Yeah.
And what I've actually noticed is that depending on the type of post that you put up, certain people will like it. And the reason they like it is because they know that reflects in a particular way on them. So it's
that's right.
It's not about really liking what you had to
At least
say.
you
It's
can
more
have
about me
proving that
looking
you
like.
care, which you don't.
If you're going to have likes, you've got to have another icon there with 2 fingers like this. like
Yeah.
you
And
go for
marketers
it.
tap into that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
there's
right.
data around now how you phrase a tweet or phrase a post or something. So you will now then, manipulate that in a certain way. So you manipulate the likes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
Goodness,
there's
it's
a lot
very,
going
very
on.
fascinating. And who would have thought we would have talked about
Who'd ever
all of
think
this?
Being popular is so much work.
It is
much
hard
work,
work. But
yeah,
who would
yeah.
have thought that Egg would have led us to this discussion?
I did. That's why.
You really wanted a picture of Egg. Well, look, Egg,
Poor
we
Egg,
hope that
poor
you
Egg.
are resting in doggy heaven.
And to that guy, don't get another dog.
Don't get another dog.
Yeah.
Well, I think I will wrap up our show tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Denise,
Oh,
for
thank
joining
you.
us. It's been a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
gentlemen,
thanks.
as
Yeah,
always.
thanks.
Oh, yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
all right.
Sorry if it was a bit raw, but that's what you
That's
get.
right. We're raw, authentic, and honest. That's what you get on the
Red
third rail.
raw.
So
Yeah.
thanks very much for watching.
No vassal.
We'll see you next time. See ya.